Yeah, absolutely. Well, happy Sunday, everybody. Are you guys doing good? You sound good. Most of you sounded pretty good, and you look excited to be here. So I'm excited for us to jump into this today. Hey, real quickly, when it comes to preschool, this is something that we actually started about this time a year ago, where we literally said, I think this is something that's really needed in our community, and we had the right awesome people in place who could make it happen. And then some of you who have been here for a couple of years, you'll know that because of faithful giving and generosity through a season we called Forward, we were able to actually start it very, very quickly. And so this was our first graduating class a couple of weeks ago, so it was a lot of fun. And it was kind of cool just to be able to stand in the back and go, wow, can you believe we really just had this idea a year ago? And so when we reopen again here in a couple of months, then for year two, we'll have twice as many kids who are enrolled. So it's going great. It's actually taken off, doing really cool things. And so we're able to continue offering it in what I think is a really quality school and expand it. And we'll be able to keep offering stuff like that because of continued giving. So need you to jump in on that and be a part of that. And the cool thing about it is because it's actually helping us fulfill part of our mission as a church. Like, it's really a great thing happening in our community, and some people who were here first service and will be here next service and are in here right now, you found your way in here today through preschool. And so that was your introduction to our church. And so it's a very cool thing happening. And so I just want to make sure you know how to be a part of it and give if that's the way God would choose to lead you today. Number of ways to do that. The easiest way is use your phone on the back of the chair. It will actually take you directly to the giving page right now. So you can do that. So, all right, today we're going to launch a new series that's going to carry us through June and July. And we're just simply calling it Journals. Okay, and so to get started today, let me just ask you a question, like what might be the most famous journal, or you might want to use the word diary, that you're familiar with? Okay, and some people have rushed right to Anne Frank. That's probably like the most famous, the diary, right? Or Ronald Reagan actually wrote one when he was president, kind of chronicled his years in the White House. Wimpy Kid, that counts as a diary. The diary of a wimpy kid, that's legit right there. Lots of people wrote a diary or a journal. About 20 years ago, someone handed me this, and it's the Journals of Kurt Cobain. All right, well, if you're not familiar with Kurt Cobain, he was the lead singer for a group called Nirvana. He kind of became an unofficial spokesperson for Gen X in many ways. Passed away. Whatever happened there, we're not sure, at the age of 27, okay, back in 1994. But when you open it, it's just full of drawings. It's got like song lyrics in here. It's got some really angry stuff in here, and then it's got a couple of letters to his wife, and as he talks about how he chose the name Nirvana, and there's a lot of thoughts and feelings and emotions in there, chronic sickness that he talks about all the time in there. And so if you want to know a little bit more about the person, well, you open up the journal and you read it. And so here's kind of the point of the whole series. I want you just to see in a short sentence is that journals chronicle journeys. And that's kind of where we're going to head over the next couple of weeks, actually 2 months. And I'll show you, these are some of mine, okay? I've been a journaler for most of my life. Now that I'm getting older and my handwriting's a little worse, I can't read. Anybody else, you can't read some of the things you've written. And so I don't journal a whole lot. So if I do, it's really important. And, I'm going to take my time to actually write it down. But I have many. They're full of feelings. They're full of emotions. They're full of thoughts and prayers. They have people's names in them. Some of your names are written down in there. Mostly good, I'm sure. This one here is from March 1990, okay? And this is written right after I first met my wife, my now wife, Chris. And so it's interesting. If you thumb back through it, you would go, okay, this page is all about her. What did I think about her? How did I feel about her? And you could read about it. I mean, you can't read about it, but it's in here, okay? This one I pulled out. I've got tons of these things. This one I pulled out this week, random. It's dated 2011. I just flipped it open this week, and it's like, okay, what was I thinking? And just 3 simple things it says. I'm tired. I feel alone. I'm not having much fun. You go, oh, well, what was happening in your life at the time? Well, you could learn that. Chris and I share a gratitude journal. And we started this in November of 23, and it kind of laid out on our counter, and most every day we would write in it, and she would have her side, and I would have my side, and we would typically write 3 things. There's a name of a person that we're thankful for. There was a experience that we were grateful for, and then we would have like an emotion, a feeling, or a blessing of God. And you go, okay, well, what was happening in your life? Like you could read the journal entry essentially, and sometimes it's obvious, and then other times you would go, I wonder what that was about, right? What was going on there? Anybody keep a journal, a diary? You're like, no, I just post on social media every day. Same thing, okay, that's what happens. If you were to open up your Bible right to the middle, okay, you would probably be in the book of Psalms, which is really one big journal written mostly by a guy by the name of David. And so what we're going to do this summer is we're going to read the details of his life found in the Old Testament, like what's called 1st and 2nd Samuel, and then we're going to jump over to Psalms and kind of peek into his journal, because in the journal he talks about his experiences and his feelings and his emotions and his questions and his prayers. So we're going to follow the whole life, okay? We're going to go from shepherd boy. Next week we'll talk about his battle with Goliath. He's going to be working for the king, then he's going to be the king, and then he's got some failures, he's got some victories. We're going to read his journal to see what is this guy thinking and what might be going on in his life. And so I do want to tell you this, not every episode of his life actually has a direct parallel to a journal entry, okay? In some cases, like today, we're going to walk through his story, and then I'm going to connect it to a psalm, even though, and I'll remind you of this, and again, I don't think it's 100% proven that that's what he's talking about. I think we can read it through that lens, okay? So I just want to jump in, and then when we end today, we typically end on, here's the next step you can take. At the end of today, there's really only one, okay? So it's going to be an all play. So let's start. Old Testament, 1 Samuel chapter 13. Bring us all up to speed. It says this: Samuel said to Saul. You got to stop there because these are two very, very important people, okay? So Samuel, he's pretty much like the spiritual leader of Israel. Okay, he's kind of like the top guy. He's like the pastor of the entire nation. He's a very, very big deal. Everybody knows who this guy is. And Saul is the first king over Israel. Okay, so it's this. Okay, hey, listen, really big news here. The Lord has found a man after his own heart. And I think that's probably the most important phrase we could think about today. And the Lord has appointed him as ruler over his people because you have not done what the Lord commanded. Okay, so the reason we're about to announce and select a new king is it's pretty simple. God had a really simple arrangement with the nation of Israel, and it was pretty much like, hey, listen, if you just kind of follow me and worship me as the one true God, and you just follow my lead, then I'm going to lead you into good paths, and you're going to be protected, and you're going to be provided for, and you're going to prosper. But listen, when the king actually chooses to do his own thing, and he starts to lead you in a different direction, and when the king says, hey, you know what? I think I know better what to do here than actually God knows what to do, then you're actually going to go down some really bumpy roads, and I will actually remove him from being the king. And that's exactly what happened. Saul did a lot of really bad things. He actually neglected a lot of good things. So God's sending our national pastor, Samuel, with the news. Now listen, nobody knows this is happening, okay? It's just God going, hey, I've picked a guy, and I'm going to show you who he is and who's going to be next. So Samuel shows up at this house that God tells him to go to, okay? And when he shows up to this family, everybody's a little bit on edge. You just got to understand that, okay? Because what he's about to do and tell them could potentially cause a national problem. It's like this. Some of you are going to roll into work tomorrow and it'd be like this. Hey, listen, I know Bob is the CEO, okay? But you're going to be the next one, so let's just go ahead and have a swearing in. And, okay, well, when's he going to take over? We don't know that, okay? And that's kind of what's happening here. You come to chapter 16, and Samuel shows up at the home of this dad named Jesse. He's got a whole bunch of boys, and Samuel says, hey, everybody just relax. Why don't we start up the grill? Let's just have a little meal together, and let me just kind of tell you why I'm here today. And here's how it goes. Chapter 16, verse 6. So he arrives. Samuel sees the first son, Eliab. He's the oldest. Typically, that's the test. And he says, well, certainly the Lord's anointed one is right here. You got to picture this guy, like 6'4", 225. He's chiseled. And Samuel's like, okay, that was easy. Wow, all right, you're the king. And the Lord says to Samuel, okay, no, that's not how it's going to work. Don't look at his appearance or his stature, because I have rejected him. And that doesn't mean that he's no good. It just means he's not the guy, okay? You're going to have to move on. Because humans do not see what the Lord sees. For humans see what is visible, but the Lord sees the heart. Now, there's a way that we do things, okay? We typically do things. Listen, there's a way that the Jaguars should draft, right? You should draft the biggest, the fastest, the very best, the strongest player that you can. You should be looking for the guys who are coming from the very best schools, who have won awards, who are kind of tops in their particular position, and they've got the highest football IQ. That's the way we do things. We make a lot of superficial judgments all the time. God actually does it entirely differently, right? He's going to choose to use people who are oftentimes very unlikely that we would not even think about. Matter of fact, let me give you an example. Let me show you a picture of this guy. Maybe you know who this guy is. Phil Robertson. Do we know this guy on the left? Passed away this past week at the age of 79. I'm not even really sure how to describe him. Businessman, outdoorsman, TV personality, the Duck Commander, okay, family leader. And I just happened to stumble across this Facebook post from Uncle Si here on the right. And I don't know if you can see what it says in the first comment right there. Thankful that God shared him with the world. He was truly, what's it say, a man after God's own heart. He just loved Jesus, loved his church, right? Was greatly used by God, will probably continue to be used by God. He just doesn't look like the person I would have picked. Anybody else? So it's not about the physical. It's not about social standing. It's not about birth order. It's just going, listen, God, you look past everything on the outside of what you and I typically put out to try to impress people. And you go straight to the heart. Okay, well, verse 8, well, who's next? Well, Jesse calls the next kid, Abinadab, and presented him to Samuel. And Samuel's like, no, that's not the one. Jesse goes, all right, next, Shammah. Samuel says, well, the Lord hasn't chosen this one either. Now, you try to put yourself in Samuel's situation here going, okay, anybody else feel bad for him? You're like, geez, how awkward here. Like, just keep moving. Who's next? Okay, after Jesse presented 7 of his sons, Samuel told him, sorry, man, none of these are the guy. It's kind of like a 1000 BC version of Hinge or Tinder. That's kind of the way I view it, okay? It's like, okay, I've looked at all the profiles. All right, I've looked at age and ethnicity and height and gender and politics and education level. And I mean, like, I'm trying to interpret the digital body language here, and many of you use it, and many of you have used it, and it's been successful, and I'm going to marry some of you who have used it, and I think it might work out for you. But Samuel's literally just swiping through profiles because we tend to judge only by appearances. And when we do that, we overlook the most crucial part of who a person really is. We overlook what we typically cannot see, which is inside the heart. So Samuel asks him, hey, is this all the boys? You don't have any other boys that I can maybe look at? And, okay, well, there's still the youngest, he said, but he's out tending the sheep. And so Samuel says, all right, well, you send for him. We got to have that kid. Get him here. And we're not going to sit down to eat. Nobody's eating until he gets here. So again, you try to picture the awkwardness of the situation. Hey, listen, sorry, none of your boys are going to be the one. You got anybody else? It's like, okay, yeah, well, there's another one, but come on, man, he's a kid. I mean, he's out in the pasture with the sheep. I mean, take another look at Eliab. Am I right? He'd be amazing. Okay? He's like, well, get him, man. We're going to wait. And you think about it, because the bro didn't even get invited to the cookout. Like, he's just out there doing his chores, and we're about to have this party. So everybody just stands around. I guess we're just going to look at each other for a while, and probably very uncomfortable, and we're waiting. And David, wherever he is, like, he literally has no idea what's happening back home. Like, he has no idea that in the next hour or two what's actually going to happen. And so Jesse sent for him, and this is the first time we know anything about David. It says he had beautiful eyes, he was healthy, handsome appearance. It's just not the way we would typically talk to another dude. Man, you have beautiful eyes. And, just because the oldest, more distinguished, apparently qualified was not chosen, it doesn't mean David has to be the complete opposite. Sounds like he's looking fine. He's handsome, right? He's got beautiful eyes, whatever that means. I mean, we know later the dude had it all. He was a musician. He was a poet. He was into CrossFit. Ladies, does that sound okay? I mean, the dude could handle a wild animal, and he's going to be a military general. He's amazing. But when it comes to his qualifications, okay, the only thing that we really know are the things within his control. He's already said, hey, he's got a heart for God. And you read this in 12, the Lord said, okay, that's the guy. Anoint him. He's the one. And so you have oil, oftentimes it's this very visible symbol to represent something that is invisible. And so Samuel takes the horn of oil, he anoints him in the presence of his brothers, and the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully on David from that day forward. It's just like Samuel going, listen, Spirit of God's covering you. You know, a lot of times in the Old Testament, the Spirit would just kind of make visits to people, and he would show up, and then he would go away, and this seems to be like a permanent kind of a thing, like from that day forward. And this anointing, okay, this very private thing is someday going to result in this very public kind of a thing. And it all happens right here in front of his family, and I'm sure some of them were really annoyed, you know, when this is happening. But you got to understand, this is not even really a king thing at this moment. That comes later. It's really just kind of this regular old kind of a, hey, listen, I am choosing you. I got a thing for you, kind of an anointing that go, listen, hey man, listen, something's coming. Something's coming. David has no idea everything that's going to be in front of him, but I love this because God's calling him like right here in this moment before you go out there. Right, God's just kind of calling him in this moment. I just want to give you a little glimpse, okay, of where this might actually take you. And you get to the end of it, and Samuel goes home, and David goes back out into the field to tend sheep. And his whole family probably said, what do y'all think that was about? You ever had that, though? Like some of y'all, you ever had like a moment like that? Some of you had. We've talked about it, right? Where God, it's just like God kind of just tapped you on the shoulder for something. Or you felt like God was maybe just even whispering your name, or he jump-started your heart. And if you don't totally ignore it in that moment, many of us are even today still waiting for that thing to be fully realized. Could you just learn something from David here and go, okay, I could be faithful in this moment right now. I will do the thing that I have control over, which is I will be the person that I need to be so that when it finally comes to be fully realized, I'll be ready for what God has for me. Listen, David is quite possibly a middle schooler at this time in his life. A lot of people say he's maybe 13, 14, even 15. He won't become king until he's 30, which means another 15 years he's tending sheep and just living into the calling that's been placed on him. Now, we don't know if David's written any Psalms at this point in his life, so I acknowledge this is not an exact parallel. But I want to take us to one journal entry in Psalms chapter 139, and whether or not it was intended to be about this moment, okay, I want us to read it through that lens. Because he starts this, and he dates it, I don't know, 1000 BC, Tuesday, whatever it was. Psalm 139:1, Lord, you've searched me and known me. God, you know when I sit down, like, you know when I stand up. You understand my thoughts from far away. You observe my travels and my rest. You're aware of all my ways. And before even a word like makes it to my lips, before it comes out of my mouth, God, you know all about it. So listen, you think about this for a second. God, you know everything about me. You know all the good things, like you know all the bad things, like the best and the worst of what I'm about to even say. And I know some of you think that's pretty terrifying, but the way David writes it is very comforting. It's like, God, you got a view over my life that nobody else has. And then he writes this, it's like you've encircled me. It's like you placed your hand on me. It's like, God, you know everything about me and you love me. Like you put your hand on me. Like those moments when I'm walking away from you, those moments when it's like I'm walking in the dark, you're just loving me every step of the way. You're protecting me. Even those times when I'm not even thinking about you. Like I can't escape your presence. I couldn't even try to run away from you. I could go as far as possible, and even though, God, you're still leading me, like you're still guiding me. You're holding on to me. I mean, how amazing is that? You might say, okay, well, listen, I'm not even sure if God has been with me or even had a hand on me. I don't know about it. I don't see it. Or maybe you say, okay, well, I want to see that. I want to believe that. David's like, no, it's a fact. God has his hand on me. God circled me. You think maybe like how your life might actually be different, how you might at least actually view it differently if you believed and lived at what David's describing. God is literally out in front of you and he's behind you. It's like he's literally saying, listen, follow me, and I got your six. I'm leading, and I'm protecting. I mean, how amazing is that? I mean, God, you're before me, and you follow me. Leader, protector. And it's this faith that David has that God's ordained his path. I mean, what, like, reassurance, like, what confidence, okay, that even though, and this is particular to David, that someday you're actually going to be the king, and you're going to live at the highest part of the chain, man, and the pressures and the decisions and the authority that you have. Even though that's who you're going to be someday, guess what? The buck doesn't stop with you. And it doesn't stop with you, Dad, or in your job, or whatever it is that you're trying to lead, and it doesn't stop with me. It's like, and David goes, the wondrous knowledge is beyond me. Like, when I think about all this, it just blows my mind. He goes, it's lofty. I'm unable to reach it. So skip down to 13, because he's going to make it very, very personal, and we're going to end up somewhere here in a second. And David goes, listen, it was you who created my inward parts. Like, you knit me together in my mother's womb. Anybody ever heard this before? It's from David's journal entry. I will praise you because I've been remarkably and wondrously made. Your works are wondrous. I know this very well. My bones were not hidden from you when I was made in secret. I was formed in the depths of the earth. This is amazing to me. Like, before Samuel ever shows up to say, listen, man, this is crazy, I know it, but someday you're going to be the king, okay? I know you got acne and you're going through puberty right now. Someday you're going to be the king, all right? I mean, before you ever get to the battle with Goliath, and before he ever leads the nation, before Bathsheba, before the guy ever becomes a military genius, he's going, listen, God saw that. Like, God, you knew that. Like, you planned that. God, you chose me because God created me. And David makes it very personal. God, you created me. And listen, I know, okay, without a doubt, that some of us just don't feel all that special, or that God could actually feel this way about us. Like we could never imagine God having any kind of special calling on our life. So can I go to the minimum here? See if you can follow me. I shared this with our students 2 years ago at camp, and I'm not sure if that's connected to why I haven't been invited back. Again, I'm going to share it with you all. And I want to talk about where you came from. And I know you think that was the last series we did, but just give me a second. Let's talk about where I came from. Maybe we can do it that way. Listen, I know my dad, Jim, and my mom, Janet, had quite a bit to do with it, if you know what I mean, okay? And you see, when two people love each other, no, we're not going to do that, but, and listen, I know you don't want to hear this, but somebody somewhere at some time had sex. Follow me here. When that happened, 200 million sperm pulled up to the starting line of a race, and someone goes, start your engines, okay? 15 to 40 million of those competitors were actually good at racing, if you follow me. Only about 400 of them ever made it to the final lap. Only 40 of those guys ever got close enough to make contact with the finish line, and only one little fella makes it across the finish line and into the winner's circle. And you know who that was? That one who won the race, that was you. Like, you had a 0.00002% chance of making it, and here you are. So I think you should give yourselves a hand. Well done, everybody. Good job. Those are the basics. You did it. And then David gets even more personal, saying God went into a secret place. It's like he pulled out a sewing kit. It was like he got some building materials together and he started to go to work. It's like God stepped into an art studio, pulled out the canvas, got the brushes, and he went to work. And what he produced was a unique, original, not a copy, individual, amazing work. Listen, you're edition 1 of 1. That's it. God made you. Okay, he wanted you. You're not an accident. And I just think it's easy sometimes to ask questions like, okay, well then why did you make me this way? Like, why did you do that one thing, you know? Why do I have 2400 vision, okay? Why did you make the one pointed ear, like the nose at that angle? Like, was that funny to you, okay? Because listen, you might not be the best, you might not be the brightest, but you are a unique creation, beloved son or daughter of a most high creator God. That's who you are. And David goes, well, then I know how I should respond. He says, I will praise you because I have been remarkably and wondrously made. You were created full of wonder. Like you should say to your neighbor, I knew I was wonderful all along. That's exactly what he's saying. Listen, just think about how amazing your brain is here just for a second, okay? On day 42, okay, you're not here yet, but day 42 from conception, you got one neuron, okay? And then for the next 120 days, your brain started going crazy, and you're like, it's really crazy right now. But listen, it was crazy back then, and you went from one brain cell to 100 billion of them. That's 9,500 a second for 120 days. 60 days before you and I made our grand appearance into the world, all of those neurons essentially started to group text with one another, and they're getting acquainted. And then somebody in there, the project leader, realizes, we can do a whole lot of cool stuff when we work together. That one neuron you started with has now made connections with 15,000 new friends. It's just quite an amazing production, okay? And that's just part of your brain. It's David just saying over and over and over again, okay, you and I have been handcrafted, don't miss this part that comes next, to serve a very special purpose. Hey, listen, I understand most of us are constantly looking around to kind of find out what our value is. Like, what's our purpose? Who am I? Like, okay, who am I supposed to be? Because listen, we live in a world who's just constantly beating down the door, like to tell us who we are and what we're supposed to be like and all that kind of thing. And before long, it just starts to affect how we feel about ourselves, doesn't it? I mean, it's just so easy to think like, okay, well, I just don't have the right body then, and I don't have the right look, and I just don't have the right talents and skills. And if we don't get comfortable with and actually embrace like this wonderful idea that God has actually made you to be who you are, it affects all kinds of things, right? And we'll talk down to ourselves, and we might even try to harm ourselves, or we might think we've been born wrong, or there's just something wrong with us because we're not like someone else. I mean, he finishes the thought here. He says, your eyes, God, you saw me when I was formless. The reason we support community organizations like Skylark, when you come across somebody who's just really adamant about abortion and support a right to life, like this is what much of that belief is based on, right? That God has made us uniquely long before we actually ever entered the world. And then here it is. Listen to this. All my days were written in your book and planned before a single one of them began. I mean, how amazing is that thought right there? Like there's a secret book that's all about you. I don't know if like there's one giant book and we each get a chapter, if you have your own, book somewhere and God kind of keeps track of all that. But before you ever lived a day, David's going, listen, God's seen all of it. Like there's nobody like you, but you've been designed by God exactly as you have been, don't miss what he's saying, to do the things that God has planned for you to do. And I don't know if you're like me, but usually the takeaway is, okay, well, like, what are these things God has actually planned for me? Because that'd be wonderful to know, wouldn't it? Anybody, you ever go, man, I would really love to know what I should be doing with my life? And so I spent a lot of years wrestling through this one with all those questions. Okay, well, what am I supposed to be doing, and where should I actually be doing it? Anybody else, you ever done that before? Me, a lot of years, just always thinking, always looking for like the perfect role, okay, the perfect job, the perfect place. And then one day I came across a book that actually walked me through what I found to be pretty much what I think is the missing piece to the whole thing. And, because, listen, we jump right to the do. What should I do? And then we jump to, okay, well, where should I go to do this particular thing? And we skip over what is probably the most important thing, which is be. Like, who did God actually create me to be? Because when I can settle into that and start to figure out, okay, who am I? God, you created me this way. Well, then some of the other stuff starts to actually fall into place a little bit. Listen, some of you are getting ready to head off to college here in a little bit. And when our kids were ready to go, we wanted to make sure that they knew, you know what? I don't really care what you study. I didn't say if. I don't care what you study, okay? I don't care what degree you pursue. I don't really care what, kind of line of work you end up in. And someday, listen, who you are is way more important than what you do. It is way more important. Like we never had conversations at our house that everybody should grow up to be a pastor. That sounds like a terrible plan, by the way. I had one conversation with my son. He made that decision. Never really talked about it with our kids a whole lot. Just listen, whatever you choose to, listen, the greatest call on your life is not to be a pastor. That's not the high end of everything. It is to love and to serve God with all of your heart, no matter what you do. And that's how David ends the journal entry in 23. He gets to the end, he's like, okay, let me wrap it up here. Okay, then, well, search me, God. And what's the word? Know my heart. Test me, know my concerns. See if there's any offensive way in me. Okay, and then lead me in the everlasting way. It's David going, all right, God, just take a deep look at my heart and keep on looking. And okay, let's get this right. Like if I get that right, I know that you'll lead me in the ways you have planned for me. Can I tell you, I just fully believe this, that as long as you are in sync, as much as you possibly can, as long as you're in sync with God's heart, that he will get you where you need to be doing the thing that you need to do. So I want to fast forward to the end of David's life and connect it to his beginning, and I want to go to the book of Acts, and we'll wrap this up. And it's just kind of a summary statement section about David, and Acts 13:22 says okay, we're talking about God. He raised up David as their king, and then this is the way God characterized him. I have found David, the son of Jesse, here's our phrase, to be a man after my own heart, who will carry out all my will. So can you just give this a minute or two, maybe 4, of real consideration, okay? And I'll wrap it up. So David gets anointed, okay? And he gets a glimpse, just a little glimpse of some things that might be in front of him, but he really has no clue whatsoever where everything's going to lead him. I think he has absolutely no idea that he's going to play a significant role carrying out the actual will of God. But I want you to see what it is rooted in, right? What does it say? He's a man after God's own heart. Okay, so the word you get for that whole phrase right there in Hebrew, Kylie Babo, you could have fun pronouncing it if you want to. The better translation there is to say, okay, David had a heart like his. That's what it means, heart like his. David carried out the plans of God because he had a heart like God's. That's what it means. So David's going to live a fascinating and complicated life. All right, dude's going to be a shepherd for a long time. And once he's done shepherding sheep, he's going to shepherd people. And then he's going to serve the king. That's the next thing he's going to do. Next week, he's going to defeat Goliath. He's going to become the king. He's going to be an accomplished military general. He's going to have one of the most historic moral failures and commit adultery. He's going to be on the run for most of his life from the former king. He's going to have all kinds of family problems. The dude was not an excellent example of a dad, by the way. He's going to raise a ton of money, for the temple. And by the end of his life, he's going to write the single most famous journal entry of all time, called Psalm 23. Listen, the dude was not perfect, okay? It's not that he never failed. It's not that he didn't have a whole line of mistakes that he probably hoped we would never be talking about this summer, okay? He wasn't the greatest example of everything, but the deepest orientation of his heart matched God's priorities. I need you to hear this. The deepest orientation of his heart matched God's priorities, even when sometimes his actions couldn't keep up. So just catch it, okay? David's role changed, his responsibilities changed, his location changed, his friends changed, but who he was at his core remained consistent. So that you read this summary of his life just a little bit later saying, David, okay, after serving those purposes, after serving God's purpose in his own generation, he fell asleep. Okay, that doesn't mean he was tired or exhausted or needed a break. He died. That's what it means, okay? Like David, once he fulfilled the purpose that God had designed him for. When? Way back in middle school. Okay, time's up. You did what you were supposed to do. I mean, how about getting to the end of your life? It's not a perfect life, okay? Not the one you've lived the entire time. Just getting to the end of it, having the reassurance that when your family gets together with the funeral director and the pastor, like there's no debate on what we're going to put on the headstone. Oh, we're all in agreement, right? Yeah, David, okay, man after God's heart. So I said today there's really only one next step, and that's to see if you could actually fill in this blank that I put in the notes. Can you fill in the blank and then actually live to see it become a reality? And obviously, it's an all play. You can change, make it gender specific. It just becomes a very simple mission statement, okay, that I hope we could go, okay, I would love for my life to be characterized that way. You know, yeah, I want to be a great dad. Of course I do. I want to be a great pop, moving into a new phase, okay? I want to be successful at work. I want to leave a lasting legacy. Yes, of course. And I know for a lot of, us guys, it's like, okay, well, man and heart, those things just don't go together, do they? So just understand, we're talking about fighting. We're talking about seeking. We're talking about chasing after God's heart. We're not talking about perfection. We're not talking about always getting it right. I mean, that's what makes David so relatable, by the way, and real and accessible. Like that our failures actually don't disqualify us from having the heart that's like God's. Because you're not looking for perfect, okay? But someone who will actually live purposeful. And here's what we mean by that. Okay, I will live by the desires deep inside of me to honor God. I think sometimes we build it up in our mind that it's something different, and that's what it is. Like, do I value what God values? Like, does my heart actually beat for the same things that God's heart beats for? Does the things that break God's heart actually break my heart? And when I fail Him, okay, am I humbly willing to move towards confession and restoration? Like, can I every single day align and realign my heart, okay, with God's purposes, just over and over and over again, so I come back to the core of what God cares about, justice and mercy and authenticity and living with purpose. Like I can be a man after God's heart. You can be a woman actually after God's heart when we simply just care about what God cares about. That's it. I mean, so you didn't end up doing the thing you thought you were going to be doing today, did you? Some of you aren't even sitting next to the people you thought you'd be sitting next to. If you're sitting next to a spouse, that's who you're supposed to be married to. There's no question about that. But you're not living where you thought you'd be living, and you're just waiting, okay, for God to use you for His purposes. Okay, I do believe that God has the power to know what He has planned for you, to see it, but you have the power. Okay, you have the control over the one thing that matters the most, and that's your heart. So to declare and pursue and live into being that man or that woman who has a heart like God's. So we always create a little space at the end of the service to respond, either in prayer if you want to, reflection. You want to stand, you want to worship, you want to use the moment to say, okay, God, I want to commit. I don't know what all that means. I don't know where that leads me, but that truly is the desire of my heart. And it's to lead me in the way that you want me to go. And man, I want to get to the end of my life and say, I did it. I did it. I fulfilled the purpose that God had for me. What an amazing way, huh, to end your life. So I'm going to pray to that end today. God, we just say thank you today for these words. God, for this life of David that we can learn so much from. God, thank you that you have preserved a lot of his writings just to tell us how he feels and what his prayers are, what his questions really are, and how he wrestles through in the end that no matter how screwed up his life was at times, how off path he got, he was constantly coming back to giving you his focus and his attention. Today, God, we want to do that. We just want to step in your direction today, not knowing fully what it really means, but God, just help our hearts align with your heart to care about the things that you care about today.